Donald Trump is fully crashing out on social media, threatening to kill a bunch of Democratic lawmakers, saying that they should be hanged. A group of 6 senators and members of Congress, all veterans, who made a video together encouraging members of the military to remember that they do not have to follow unlawful orders. In fact, they are required to not follow unlawful orders. Stephen Miller had his own crash out about it, saying that they were insurrectionists, and now Donald Trump has spent literally all morning talking about how they needed to be killed. I've said before that the worst presidents in American history are the Andrews, Andrew Jackson and Andrew Johnson. And if you ask me, hey Amanda, who are the only other presidents who threatened to kill their political opponents? It would be the Andrews, Andrew Jackson and Andrew Johnson. Andrew Jackson, who looked fully like a dried out piece of apple, threatened to murder a bunch of members of Congress from South Carolina over the nullification crisis. The government had instituted a series of tariffs that were very damaging to South Carolina's cotton industry, which was, of course, backed by enslaved labor. The members of Congress from South Carolina, most notably John C. Calhoun, made a bunch of statements and fuss about how if the federal government had the power to enforce tariffs, they had the power to overturn slavery. So they were just going to ignore it or nullify the law. Andrew Jackson said he was going to go down to South Carolina and hang the first member of Congress he could find from the first tree that was around. And then we have Andrew Johnson, this Lord Farquaad-looking ass. Andrew Johnson became president after Abraham Lincoln was assassinated. He believed in the cause of the Civil War as far as it pertained to keeping the Union together, but he did not care what happened to Black people. Radical Republicans in Congress, who at the time, remember, were the Progressive Party, started passing a bunch of legislation to enforce the civil rights of the newly freed Black people, and Andrew Johnson went on a speaking tour around the country talking about how they were traitors to the Constitution and should be hanged. So what happened in the long term? Not much. South Carolina backed off the nullification crisis under Andrew Jackson, but of course they were the first state to secede when the Civil War broke out. After Andrew Johnson went on his speaking tour calling for the death of a bunch of his political opponents, he lost in a landslide in the midterms. The Radical Republicans took such a supermajority in Congress that they just vetoed a bunch of his legislation over and over and over. This sort of thing is the last resort of a president who really wants you to think he has control of a situation when he in fact has no control of a situation. In my opinion, these Democratic members of Congress knew exactly what they were doing. They baited him and he swallowed it. Hook, line, sinker, and rod, which as we all now know from those emails, he likes to do. In other words,